My wife and I, we had an interesting meeting. We were infants. Our moms have been best friends since first grade, and my wife and I are only 18 days apart.
Family actually knew each other back in Ukraine.
My parents were going to visit her in Boston, and they asked me if I want to come along. I said, I don't know, I'm not sure. And then my mom showed me a picture, and I'm like, okay, I'm coming. Something clicked, and we fell in love, and we got married a year and a half later. In my early 20s, I became a father. I realized that something was missing in my life. I didn't have instruction how to be a good father. I wanted to be better for my son. The first thing that came to my mind is to start reading the Bible. Having gone to yeshiva, I had different versions of the Tanakh at home, and I started reading it. And then right when I started reading that, a neighbor of mine gave me a Bible. And I decided I'm going to start reading that one as well. So I open up to Genesis, and I read, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. And I'm really confused because I just realized I'm reading the same Bible as the Tanakh. I got to the New Testament and figured, oh, here, I'm going to get to the Christian part now. I start reading the book of Matthew, and I realize it's another Jewish book by a Jewish person for Jewish people about the Jewish Messiah. Everything I'm reading is resonating with me. Who is this Jesus person? Why is he different than when the rabbis told me in school that he was just some renegade rabbi that started his own religion? My wife knew I was studying some things, but when I told her that I became a Christian, I saw fear in her face. We got into fights. She basically equated Christianity with anti-Semitism.
I remember feeling this such great confusion in my head and anger, and all these emotions started to come over me. There was a lot of yelling and screaming going on in our house.
You know, how can I become an anti-Semite?
I was really angry.
How can she be married to an anti-Semite?
I just thought, this is it. We're going to get a divorce.
If I wasn't a believer at the time, it probably would have been easy for me to leave. Because I was a believer, the thought of divorce disappeared as an option.
And after a while, I think because I was so much against it, he just could not continue going to a congregation, wherever he was meeting at that time, because it was just, he knew eventually it was going to lead to divorce.
Let me do whatever I can to save my family. And I figured I was doing the right thing. But in reality, it turned out to be the wrong thing. On the surface, they looked better a little bit because we kind of stopped fighting about that. But in the inside, I kept feeling something missing. To fill that void, I eventually got into New Age. That was a huge mistake on my part. When I left the fellowship of other believers, I opened up myself to anything else coming in. And because that spiritual void was there, and I didn't allow Yeshua to fill it and the Holy Spirit to fill it, evil things came to fill it.
And that direction really made his character change. And that person who I loved so deeply just became kind of somebody else for a while. It wasn't pleasant. And it did a lot of damage to our family.
And I started feeling like I was needing something again. I was driving back from Massachusetts, and it was about a 3.5, 4-hour drive. And all I could think about was Jesus. I kept praying to God and saying, God, if this is where you want me to be, give me some signs. And that whole 2-hour class, I was just filled with the Holy Spirit. I called the pastor, told him I want to come to your service. And he said, yeah, absolutely, come, bring your family. And I'm like, yeah, right, I'll be there by myself.
So he came home one day and he said, told me the story, and he said, I want to go to church. Thinking
right now there's going to be a fight. She's going to say, you do what you want, I'm done with this. And she looks me in the eye and she says, I'm going with you. Our family for many years was a broken family, in between the fights, between the not having any peace at home. When we started connecting with other Messianic believers, it made our faith more real, and especially for my wife, because to her, she became a believer, but she was still struggling with the fact of being a Jew, of being someone who believed that Christians were anti-Semites. Now actually connecting with other Jewish believers and other people who went through what she went, it was huge for her. And she has become such a big part of where we belong. It's having that fellowship, is understanding our Messiah and integrating that into our lives. And it's interesting for myself, being a believer and being around other Messianic believers makes me more proud to be a Jew.